Good morning, and welcome to Many Paths, Many Visions, brought to you by the Labyrinth Society and with your host, Christiana Brinton. This episode is entitled Miracles, Mystery, and Meaning on the Labyrinth with Holly Carnegie Letcher. My guest, Holly, is a Canadian citizen and resident of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, and she's also a workshop presenter at this year's gathering. Hi, Holly. Welcome to Many Paths, Many Visions. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Christiana. I feel very grateful that you and TLS have invited me to share with our listeners today.
Well, let's start. Many TLS members, Labyrinth Society members, and non-members who were at the 2013 gathering on Vancouver Island remember that you co-hosted that event, and you're also a frequent gathering workshop presenter. In the years afterward, you presented workshops on topics such as stress management, tools for supporting a labyrinth, laughter on the labyrinth, and the community experience of building an equine labyrinth, among others. But people might not know, though, that you are the current Western Canadian regional rep for Veritas, as well as the Labyrinth Society regional rep for Vancouver Island, British Columbia. And that's just a recent, is that just a recent development? And is that just Vancouver Island, or is it just in that area or British Columbia itself?
Well, I did just take on the role for Vancouver Island, okay. Because I have so many other roles right now. So hoping that there may be someone on the mainland BC that may take on other roles or other people throughout Canada.
Yeah, good. So you seem to be interested in a variety of ways labyrinths can make a difference. And you have the experience, and it seems the education to support this passion. That's what it looks like to me. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, I'm kind of having a little trouble hearing you. Keep cutting in and out a little bit.
Okay. All right. Let me see. I'm going to...
Okay.
Okay. So... yeah, so tell me about, all these different types of workshops that you've done and speaking engagements. So, talk a little bit about all these different avenues of labyrinth passion that you have.
Okay, well, I guess maybe what I might start with is, labyrinths came into my life about 18 years ago. And so that was in my early days as an occupational therapist, when I was working at a community-based mental health program in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And, I was really fortunate to be part of a pretty progressive healthcare team at the time, because alongside our clients, we had some significant experiences on the labyrinth, and it quickly became one of the tools that we introduced to clients as group facilitators and therapists in areas like stress management, self-esteem group, leisure, and spirituality groups. And so, you'd asked about education, and I look at the beauty of, my occupational therapy training was that we consider mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. And one of the models that I wanted to share that, supports what I do in my labyrinth work is called the Canadian Model of Occupational Performance and Engagement as an OT. And it has a really holistic focus on facilitating function in emotional self-care in general, leisure and productivity, and it considers the individual's environments as well as their culture, and so many people are surprised to learn that the core of our OT model is about spirituality, and so that again lends itself really well. The labyrinth fits really well as an activity is all inclusive, and it supports exploring spirituality as well as like goal setting, decision making, stress management, and mindfulness. and grief processing, to name a few. So I just wanted to maybe people might be interested. My definition of spirituality, based on um, my education and my experiences in life, is our sense of connection to self, to others, to nature, or to a higher power, and again, very individually based on a person's life experiences, their belief systems, and really encompassing meaning and purpose. So, such a connection to what the labyrinth can bring to each individual in their in their own recovery, on their own healing path, on their own journey to functioning in day-to-day life. That sort of from my OT perspective. And then, I did at the time when labyrinths were introduced to me, I researched and learned a lot about Reverend Dr. Lauren Artris, of course, one of our, one of my mentors, and has been since the very beginning of my work with labyrinths. I dreamt of going to Chartres to take the Veritas facilitator training very, very early on in the sort of end of the 90s, when I was just learning about the labyrinth. And so again, in 2007, I finally decided it was my year to go, but found out that Lauren was going to be in Paris, Ontario, which was about 45 minutes from my home. So I didn't make it to Chartres that year. I made it to Paris, Ontario, and to do my facilitator training. I did make it to Chartres in 2010 with Lauren for Living an Authentic Life, and again on my own pilgrimage in 2014, on my way to present with TLS colleagues in Istanbul, Turkey. We presented the Labyrinth at the International Association of Peace Research at that year. So, I've spent many years now as an OT in private practice. My practice, Oceanside Pathways to Wellness, and just facilitating workshops and retreats with the labyrinth as a tool and a symbol that supports processing grief, emotional self-care, empowerment, as well as building labyrinths with community. So I just, I also see my early hospital experience in palliative care, some of my ongoing training in physical and emotional pain management, as well as energy medicine, all fits well with the labyrinth. But I think my biggest learning and education has been on my own journey through light and dark, as I've walked many of the labyrinth paths around the world. So I feel really grateful to have had these experiences.
Well, that's so this thread, this Ariadne's thread of spirituality, it has woven itself through all of your various labyrinth expressions, creative expressions. And this sort of brings me to my next question, which is something you said in your bio for the Gathering workshop presentation. Holly has had profound experiences with the labyrinth in co-creation with nature's gifts of mystery, meaning, and miracles. So can you be so sort of more specific and share with us some of those experiences?
Okay, so when I was thinking about this question, I had a hard time deciding, because it seemed like the more I thought about it and reflected, the bigger my list got. And I decided on to share 3 specific examples. Back in 2007, during my Veritas facilitator training, at Five Oaks Retreat Center. So this is an early experience. The labyrinth there was at the junction of where two rivers met. And it was a 11th Circuit Chartres replica, stone and grass. And at the time for me, I was the mom of 3 young children, and I was in a very dark place in my marriage. So I had, I was doing my training, my facilitator training, but I was also, I had a lot of questions and that I was struggling with. And at this specific experience, during this specific experience, I had waited to walk the labyrinth until most people had finished that day. And I wasn't able to quiet my mind or think about offering gratitude, Instead, I stomped in this time. I stomped into the labyrinth. My mind was cluttered. It was racing. I wanted some answers to scary questions. And at the center, I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And I asked God, I asked Creator, I asked the universe, please give me a sign to know what to do next. And I waited and I waited, and it was like nothing, right? So I lay down and I fell asleep in the grass. And about half an hour later, I woke up and the sun was going down, and I began my slow walk out. And I was, again, hoping something would become clearer. But there was just fog, it was just so foggy and thick in my head. And I felt disappointed. I felt hopeless. I was frustrated with my labyrinth experience, even though I knew deep inside, that the answers weren't just going to come until I let go, until I just surrendered. I simply just needed to surrender. And that was one of the hardest parts to do. I struggled, and then I remembered just that I just had to breathe, and that all I had to do was put one foot in front of the other. And as I came around the final curve, I saw a white dove feather floating down towards me. This gives me shivers. So and then I suddenly heard this harp in my head. So this feather is floating down towards my hand, and this harp is playing in my head, and it's my favorite scene in the Forrest Gump movie. Okay, this had been the song that had played before I walked down the aisle at my wedding 12 years earlier, and the tears of gratitude just started. That feather symbolized hope and possibility for me. And I felt a little less stuck. So the meaning was really significant to me, and it truly was a gift of mystery and miracles. Because, by that time, I pretty much said, this, it's not working for me. I can't expect anything on this walk today. Just let it go, kind of thing. So, and some people would just say it was a coincidence. Birds lose feathers all the time. And another person, well, it might have gone unnoticed, but then I go into my left brain a little bit, and I say, okay, there's this frame of reference called the object relations frame of reference that says humans assign meaning or attachment to objects based on their life experiences. So for me, this was significant, and it clearly provided me with a message that I'd asked for. So, that's one example. Another one years later, this is a kind of a shorter example, but people might be familiar with an event called 1 Billion Rising. I'm not sure if you've heard about that, Christiana, but it's an event that was Yeah, so event by that was created by Eve Ensler, called and it's a dance that was developed. It's called Break the Chain Dance, and it was about singing and dancing to rise up against the oppression of women. And it's a movement that's happening right now in over 206 countries. And every year on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, for the last, I believe, 5 years, there's been this kind of flash mob movement where people rise up and dance to break the chains. And so there's a local group of teachers in my community and social workers that wanted to join this movement. And so we would get together and practice this dance that everybody around the world was doing so that we could do it together. And we were doing a flash mob going from place to place in the Oceanside community where I live, just showing up and doing this dance. And there were about 20 women and men and children that we were doing this flash mob, and we planned to end up on the Parksville Community Park Legacy Labyrinth. So here we are on February the 14th, and we've surprised a lot of people and had a lot of awareness. And then here we are on the Legacy Labyrinth in the pouring rain in February. And it's our last stop, and so we all get on the labyrinth and we dance. And as we finish the last move, the rain stops, right? And then we look directly above us, and there's a large heart-shaped cloud right above us, right? There was just no denying the message that we were all seeing this, right? So it was, again, you can chalk it up to whatever, but it was very, very clear that this heart was reflecting the love of people all around the world wanting to make change and support support all people, to not have to experience violence in their world. So the labyrinth played a really big part in that day for us all.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful stories. Great.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've time for another one. I have one that I'd like to share about part of my experience when we were completing and blessing the therapeutic equine labyrinth, which is in Coombs, just near my home, about 15 minutes away. And this was in 2014, and I'd coordinated this project for several months, and it was all about community coming together to create this enormous labyrinth in a horse's pasture. And so this was the weekend where the community had come together, and as soon as all of the 7,000 rocks had been placed, we let the medicine horses out from behind their enclosed area. And they could go anywhere on the 20 acres that they wanted to go. They could just, they were just let out. But Taz and Spirit, the medicine horses, they walked towards the labyrinth. And then, we all witnessed this, and then they proceeded to walk side by side along the labyrinth path. And then wow. Sorrento, this other magnificent medicine horse in training, he chose to walk straight across, but then he stopped in the center, and then eventually he headed out the other side. So, just being aware of, these magnificent animals and the nature all around us. And, right after that, we began this blessing ceremony with drums and rattles and our voices. And I'd brought in a condor feather, and I was bringing in ceremony that I'd learned in Peru. So we were setting intentions to bring peace, to the land, to the two-leggeds, to the four-leggeds, to the winged ones, to the creatures of the water. We were, bringing in the creepy crawlies and the trees and the rocks and the elements and all of the universe, really, right? We really were wanting to set this intention for all beings. And we, as we planted we'd received these what are called Findhorn gem essences, all the way from Findhorn, Scotland. And so we were planting these gem essences on the labyrinth, and they represented love, courage, peace, and we planted them in a sacred 5-point star on the labyrinth. And so as we were planting these, we had specific people and specific points, and we looked up, and the eagles and the hawks came. They were soaring all above us. There must have been like 10. And then, this was late May, but it was pretty cold, and we hadn't seen hummingbirds yet that season. And this hummingbird arrived, and there's quite a connection to the hummingbird and Peru and the condors, but also, so we're looking at the eagles and the condors, and this hummingbird arrives, and I'm at the very entrance, and it hovers right in front of my eyes, right in front of my face.
Oh my God.
And then it was like unbelievable. And I just looked at it, looked me in the eye, and then it went in it, and it flew straight to the center where there were participants planting other gem essences straight in the center. So it flew right to the center, it hovered in front of them, and then it proceeded to go to each point of the star and hover in front of each of the individuals that were there. And it was like, we just were absolutely incredulous. And then it went back to the center, and then it came back out to me at the entrance, hovered one more time, and left.
Wow. Wow. My golly.
Yeah. And so it was such a profound experience. You can't make these things up. We all felt so interconnected and blessed by the mystery and the miracle of that experience, and I was actually out at we ended up changing it from therapeutic equine labyrinth to the hummingbird equine therapeutic labyrinth, because of that experience. Today it actually has a different name, because it continues to transform. It's now called the Butterfly Equine Labyrinth, and for those who know it or will come to visit will learn about the wings that have been added and the transformation that continues to happen there. I was there yesterday, and there are now 6 medicine horses instead of 3, and I know that transformation is happening there daily. So I have so many other experiences I'd love to share, and some very significant ones that have happened at TLS gatherings, but I'm going to save those for gathering this year.
Great. Yeah, so let's talk about your workshop presentation. Those are amazing experiences. I can't even imagine having a hummingbird hovering right in front of my eyes. Wow. And the horses, I can't believe that the 2 of them walked together. Did they walk all the way into the center?
They walked the path for a long time together. Wow. I've got some great photos of, just them on the path side by side,
Wow.
Then single file, then just amazing.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about your workshop presentation. Nature's Gifts of Meaning, Messages, Mystery, and Miracles, Stories from the Labyrinth. Is this an experiential workshop, or are you just giving a lecture? What is this about what is
Yeah,
this?
yeah, it's definitely experiential. So, I encourage people to come with an open mind. This workshop is about people sharing stories, right? Sharing your story. So you can come to the workshop with your labyrinth story and share about the meaning, message, mystery, or miracle that nature's presented to you during your labyrinth experience, at some time in your labyrinth experience. Or you can just come and listen. Um, it's amazing what we can learn from each other's experiences. The themes of struggle, perseverance, courage, hope, and wonder, that can support and sustain us, as well as just connecting and getting to know each other in a deeper, meaningful way through our stories and experiences. We're also going to have the opportunity to walk an outdoor labyrinth as a group with the intention of being open to the possibility of nature offering you a gift that we can either share together, or you can share your own experience with the group. Again, from my first example today, it was, it's so important to go in without expectations. So, no expectations for anyone interested. If the other piece of this is that I'd like that people submit your stories after the workshop so that I can compile it in a book or to e-publish it. That's kind of my vision, is to create a book from these experiences, and I hope to have maybe a few chapters of my own and then incorporate other people's stories of meaning, messages, mystery, and miracles.
And how long is this? Is this a 60 or a 90-minute one? I
This
forgot.
is a 90-minute.
Okay, right. Yeah, so that gives you plenty of time to walk the
Hmm.
labyrinth. Um, okay, well, that sounds like a wonderful workshop, and everybody just pay attention and check it out online on the TLS website under Gathering. But now let's talk. So you're doing this workshop here, but then you decided to create something else prior to the gathering started, and it's a Vancouver Island Labyrinth Pilgrimage. What was the impetus for creating this? What made you decide to do this as everything else you're doing with?
Well, okay, so when I was at Gathering in Houston last year, there were several TLS members that approached me um, after we learned that Gathering would be on Bainbridge Island near Seattle, Washington. Um, so some had been at the Vancouver Island Labyrinth Gathering in 2013 that I'd co-facilitated, and they had experienced some of the pilgrimages that we had offered at that time, and they wanted to come back. And others had missed the experience that year and wondered whether I would be willing to offer another pilgrimage prior to Bainbridge, since it was so close by. Um, then I also had several requests from local folks on Vancouver Island who are interested in exploring the many unique labyrinths on our island. So I thought about it and pulled some of my past experiences together, and there it was. So I've been certainly working hard at creating this really unique experience for folks who are planning to come. Um, but it kind of evolved organically as well.
Well, tell us a little bit. How many days will the pilgrimage take? Will you stay overnight along the way? Without giving too much away, can you talk about this and talk about some of maybe the highlights of the tour?
Sure. Okay. Well, it's going to start on Saturday, October the 21st at 12:30 p.m. and it ends Monday, October 23rd about 9 p.m. So participants have the options of staying an extra night on the Monday night to rest, reflect, and integrate the experience before returning to daily life or before heading to the next part of their labyrinth journey at the 19th annual gathering at Islandwood on Bainbridge Island in Washington.
And what are some of the highlights? I mean, are which ones? Like I was able to be in 2013. I was only able to, because of the board meetings. I was only able to be on the first little piece of the tour, and then I had to boogie on up to Tainamara. But so, are you going? How? I mean, Vancouver Island's a big island. It's like I don't. How many are you going to do? Top, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom, or just
Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, good question because we have over 60 labyrinths on Vancouver Island, which is I think pretty unique to the world in such a small area. Um, and of course, we can't do 60 labyrinths in 3 days.
yeah.
So I have chosen specific labyrinths around the island. We're fairly we're fairly centralized. So we're going to be, but we will be moving around. So we're probably, within 2 or 3 hours, up and down and around the island, basically, where we'll be visiting different labyrinths. And it's not, the idea is not to be rushing through the experience. So my as much as I want to give you as many labyrinth experiences as possible in that amount of time, I also want to make sure that people have the time to walk and to experience, to really have the opportunity for a meaningful experience. So we're going to be staying at the Bethlehem Center in Nanaimo. And this is a really cozy retreat center at the foot of Mount Benson on Westwood Lake. This sanctuary hosts an outdoor Chartres-style labyrinth and the world's first finger labyrinth museum. Yeah, so this is new as of let's see, March 2015, maybe. I think 2015 is when we created the Labyrinth Museum. This display has replicas of labyrinths from around the world, and it was researched and created by craftsman Bill Godden, who was at our Labyrinth gathering, and we had his work displayed in 2013 here on Vancouver Island. Bill passed away at the age of 92 in March of last year. He was a really dear friend of mine who, by the time he was finished with his creating labyrinths, he'd made over 3,000 wooden finger labyrinths in his lifetime, and he only ever gave them away. So his work is found in many countries around the world, in hospices, hospitals, schools, and private homes. So this is a museum not to miss. It's absolutely incredible, and so that's a real highlight. My dear friend Carol Matthews, who was also a keynote speaker at our gathering that year, she's a labyrinth author, winner of the Governor General of Canada Award, and she's going to engage us in an intimate and thought-provoking evening keynote sharing on the Saturday night. Which is going to be followed by, and I should also say that Carol is also instrumental in bringing the Bill Godden Labyrinth Museum to Bethlehem, to the Bethlehem Center. This is going to be followed by the Madagascar crystal and copper pipe labyrinth, which is hundreds of Madagascar crystals. This is created by an amazing woman in Nanaimo named Gabriel from Light on Light, and accompanying this experience will be Mickey Ulula and Alana Dow, who are these incredible musicians that sound like angels when they're, playing keyboard, chimes, and cello as you walk the path.
And that's Saturday night?
That Saturday night. So that, in fact, is a standalone as well. So you can come for the full 3 days and 3 nights, or you can simply, if you're local, sign up and come for the Saturday evening event. And then of course we move on the next day. We start our moving part of the pilgrimage. So we've spent the day and evening at Bethlehem Center, and then we move on to the Butterfly Equine Labyrinth, also known as the Hummingbird Therapeutic Equine Labyrinth, and at Halliday's. And we're going to have an experience with the medicine horses in the round pen. These are incredibly divine, intuitive beings where their purpose is to bring harmony and balance to their herd as prey animals. Their imperative is to have harmony and to make sure that everyone's safe. And they work with humans to also entrain us to their herd, so that their heartbeat and their heart field is a lot slower than ours, and so they work very hard to bring us into that slower, more relaxed rhythm, more harmonious rhythm. And these horses also work to balance our chakras. It's hard to explain until you've actually gone and experienced what these incredible beings have to offer us. These are, I take people there on a regular basis, folks that are experiencing chronic pain and anxiety that's affecting their ability to contribute, to participate in their daily lives, to be able to contribute in a meaningful way. People who are really, really suffering, as well as people who just love horses or who just want to, hang out with these horses. A message that I heard yesterday from a client when we were there, she said, "It's the only time and place that I feel at ease and at peace." And this is from her experience on the Equine Labyrinth and with the horses. So, this is, I'm really so honored to be able to bring people on the pilgrimage to this sacred space. The other part of that, it just keeps getting better, because that evening on the Equine Labyrinth, we've invited Shaman Grey Wolf, who have Métis descent, to lead us in a gratitude fire ceremony and a drum and rattle ceremony with the ancestors. So again, very, very unique opportunities and experiences to really connect with the nature, with the land, with the spirits, whatever that looks like for you, and with each other. We're going to be doing some tree hugging. We get to go to tree hug with 800-year-old red cedar and Douglas fir at Cathedral Grove. We get to witness the majestic snow-capped mountains. We're going to learn to build labyrinths on the Parksville beach beside the Salish Sea with a dear friend, Jerry Etzkorn. He's our infamous labyrinth builder from Carmana Lighthouse. You'll get to walk the Parksville Legacy Labyrinth that was created by the Vancouver Island community and the city of Parksville for the 2013 gathering. It's also a special project of TLS. We're going to visit our eco village, which is a self-sustainable community. All food is grown on site. Just an experience. You get to experience this grounding energy of a straw bale house and then walk their 7 circuit labyrinth. it goes on and on and on. Really,
Wow.
these are just a few. I'm just welcoming this time for connection, for laughter, for movement, for dance, for quiet reflection, and for stillness on the labyrinths that we're going to visit, and we're going to connect with.
It sounds like a fabulous pilgrimage and tour. Oh my golly. I have to look at my own calendar and see if I can change my stuff around to include that. I
I
don't
hope you do.
I don't want to
I
miss
hope you
this. I
do.
can't miss this. I love horses.
Well, I tell you, there are 20 spaces for the full experience, and right now, or originally there's only 13 left, I believe.
Okay, that's good to
And
know.
yeah, only 13 left.
Okay. Pay attention, everybody. Vancouver Island Labyrinth Pilgrimage. Holly, what's the URL for that?
So you can go to uh, my website is www.pathways2wellness.ca. That's the number 2wellness.ca, pathways to wellness. And then that's where all the information is to register. You can go to www.bethlehemcenter.com, and that's where you register for the pilgrimage. There and certainly there's an early bird special that goes right alongside the gathering special. So August the 15th is the end of the early bird special. Yeah, and I think October the 1st is the end of the regular registration.
Okay, so wait, let me clarify this. You just said that you go to your website to register and the Bethlehem website to register, or
So no, you can go to my website to get all the information. There's
okay,
a whole write-up, and the details and all of that is on my website.
okay,
Um, but I'm not taking registrations. Bethlehem Center is taking all the registration.
okay,
So you would go to their website to register, and there's actually links back to my website if you want all the details
okay,
as well.
Bethlehem Center. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And okay, so I need to go back. I need to go back. There's so much I want to ask you, but I need to go back to Gibbons, right? His last. I remember him from the gathering, and his incredible finger labyrinths. Now, are they available
Bill
now?
Godden. Yes.
Godden, uh,
Yep.
can you walk in the museum? Are these behind glass, or can you actually finger use them as finger labyrinths?
Yeah, you can use them as finger labyrinths. I mean, some of them are really they're a meter in diameter or bigger. And so you can follow them with your eyes. You can go up to them on the wall and follow them with your finger too, but some of them are quite large to actually be able to reach the full circuits.
Mm.
Um, yeah, they're, these incredible replicas from different labyrinths that continue to exist, and some that no longer exist in the world. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's one question. Now what's another one? um, um, so to, what I'm hearing from you is, first of all, you have your own experiences of these mystery miracles, and you've given us examples of that. And to me, the quality of surprise and the synchronicity and even the liminality. We talk about liminal space or crossing
Mhm.
over the threshold, and there you were at the entrance, and this hummingbird comes right to you. She's on the other side of the veil, or he,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
there you are stepping into that space. That's quite extraordinary. It's just a perfect example of that liminal space, that threshold point. And then him going to the points of the star, which is in the center, so center of the center of star space. It's quite
Mm.
amazing. So it sounds to me like what you're doing, based on your experiences and your knowledge, is creating more opportunities for this for participants, even when they're actually not walking the labyrinth. they're experiencing this with the evening performances and the First Nations person doing the fire ceremony, and drums and rattles. All of that uh, helps to to open the doors and helps for liminality, the threshold to be very, very thin. Is that so? That's very intentional on your part, no?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Very intentional. Um, so, you know, um, we're wanting to really, I'm really wanting to create possibility for people to have these experiences, and part of it is uh, going in without expectation, though, right? I've said that before. I've learned my lesson about the expectations of what um, but with the intention of letting go, like letting go of ego, of needing to control outcomes, simply by being open to letting go and to experiencing whatever is meant to come in that moment. So, I can't say whoever's going to show up at my pilgrimage is going to have these experiences, right? I can't, but I can support an environment. I can bring you to an environment that has the possibility, and I can support that experience with other people, and light, and that
Holly? Oops. We have lost Holly. Holly, are you there? Holly? Oh dear. We have suddenly lost my guest. I've lost my guest. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here we go. Here we
okay,
go. Here we
there we
go.
go. Did you
Okay.
get that last part or no?
No, I didn't get that last part. Please, no. We for some reason the connection stopped, and but I reconnected in an instant, and I'm so glad to hear you back on again.
I'm back here. I am here.
Okay, so I don't know where to ask you to start again, but it's about having your participants experience um, uh, having the without expectations, having your participants experience what they can through what you've set up, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So to not so for me, yeah, it's about providing an opportunity. It's providing a possibility to have these experiences that I can't say, yeah, if you come on my pilgrimage, this is what's going to happen, because we have no idea, right? We really, it's about letting go of needing to control any of the outcomes, and simply being open to letting go, to experiencing whatever is meant to come in that moment, with our eyes, ears, and our hearts wide open. Like anything is possible.
So, okay, so I got a question for you. This is good because I now and I've been looking to see if anyone has typed anything in or is on, and they're not. So we can just
Okay.
continue chatting.
Okay.
So, so people fly in from all over the place,
Yeah.
and they are at whatever place they're at. What are you doing to help them, you know, go from a left brain to a right brain, or more centered, so that they can really participate fully? And I know that this sometimes just takes walking a labyrinth, but
Right. Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you right? Yeah. But what are you planning, anything like that first night or anything to
Yeah.
help people switch over?
Yeah, of course. And so, the very first uh, afternoon when people arrive, we'll be, doing our introductions and getting to know each other and in sharing circle. And then I'll be doing a bit of a presentation on the health and wellness benefits. So we're going from left brain and then into, I'll be doing a laughter and labyrinths, laughter yoga and labyrinths on the labyrinth. So we'll be able to kind of come out of that left brain and just experience and relax and release, and then we're just moving into, after that we're kind of moving into movement. I've got some dear friends who are teaching dances of universal peace, so we're using our bodies to then come out of that that logical left brain, having to think constantly and organize and plan and worry and all of that. So more of experience to bring ourselves into our bodies and to connect ourselves with the nature that's going to be surrounding us at the retreat center. There'll be time.
Yeah, that's perfect. I was just going to say, there's nothing better than music and movement.
Yeah. Exactly. And there'll be time for journaling too, right? I mean, that'll be important just for time for reflection. But yeah, just to, and as an occupational therapist, I do have to be very aware that people are at different stages in their labyrinth experience, in their life, in their, we're all on different places on the path and needing different amounts of support. So I'm certainly there as a support and a guide to anyone who is needing that as well. So you just need to ask.
Yeah. So what do you want the participants to take away from this pilgrimage?
Okay, well, it's so easy to get caught up in the stressors of daily life and the technology and, let that left logical brain dominate, because, that's what we have to do most of the time to function, it seems, to get through. So I'd like participants to experience some of the magic and the mystery here on Vancouver Island, a real chance to allow yourself the time and space to connect with nature on the labyrinth, to come and soar with the eagles and dance with the deer, and to find meaning and purpose, to honor your creative self, to experience deep connection to yourself and to others, to build relationships, to really experience some deep belly laughter, to breathe, to experience stillness, maybe a sense of well-being and peace of mind. I want you to return to your life feeling rested, but energized, and excited with the many stories and the new tools that you have to share.
Fabulous. So, one last question, Holly.
Okay.
What's in your future with Labyrinths, and do you have anything planned, or how many things do you have planned?
Well, I'm just going to continue to put one foot in front of the other and follow my heart. That seems to be where I find myself. I'm going to plan to continue to offer day workshops and weekend retreats and pilgrimages, and continue to build labyrinths with community locally and internationally. But, I never know when I am going to have the calling. I get these callings where, all of a sudden I have to drop everything and I have to be somewhere, because I just have to be somewhere to learn something, to connect with somebody, whatever that might be. And I've found myself, in many different parts of the world and just down the road, but I never know, when that's going to come. But I listen. I've learned that I need to listen, because with that listening and those experiences come many, many gifts, and that I can share with others. So.
Wow. So this has been great. Thank you so much, Holly. We're out of time. We're ending just perfectly, even with a little glitch in the middle there, which I'm not going to edit out, because it only lasted for a second, and it's all part of the synchronicity and the flow. So that's what I see. So it's really been a pleasure sharing this hour with you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Christiana. It's really been an honor. Thanks so much.
And yeah, and many continued blessings on your path, and can't wait to see you. And I'm going to see if I can switch my stuff around to go to this because I think I don't. I think it's something I'm not supposed to miss. So the
Awesome.
your pilgrimage, yeah.
Pilgrimage. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
thank you so
okay.
much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Labyrinth Society's Many Paths, Many Visions, broadcast by Spreaker, with your host, Christiana Brinton. Be sure to check the Labyrinth Society website, Facebook page, the global group, and YouTube for a list of upcoming dates and guests. Also, if this podcast has piqued your interest in the Labyrinth Society and you'd like more information about membership, please go to www.labyrinthsociety.org/membership. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. Namaste, and may you find what you need on your path through life.